Yangon has many famous pagodas. The most famous, of course, Shwedagon, Sule Pagoda, Botatong Pagoda, and I visited those three on my last visit to Yangon. And this one is mentioned in the list of the pagodas that one should see while you're in the city. So I thought I'd take a walk out there and take a look at the Reclining Buddha. Reclining Buddhas are kind of interesting. I don't know. I'm fine, thank you. How are you? As far as I understand things, the reclining Buddha represents Buddha's final days on earth when he was quite ill and lying on his deathbed, about to enter what they call parinirvana. Because as the Buddha, he had already entered nirvana, achieved nirvana during his lifetime, but now his body was ending its time on earth, and when his body passed away, he would move on to parinirvana. And his followers and disciples were so taken with the image of him reclining on his bed. He's shown with his head on a pillow, or sometimes on an elbow, resting his head on his arm, that they created an image to represent that moment. And then these reclining Buddha images spread all over Asia and became one of the defining images of Buddhism. There are a number of reclining Buddhas in most countries in Southeast Asia. There are a few of them here in Myanmar. I think the largest one is actually in Malamayin, where I was hoping to go this Friday. I believe the Buddha there is something like 180 meters long. The one here in Yangon is 66 meters. The reclining Buddha that I'm going to see this afternoon has a bit of an interesting history. It was first constructed in 1899, I believe, and completed in 1907. But something went wrong with the design and with the construction, and the reclining Buddha image ended up with kind of a stern and angry face, like an expression on his face, and that wasn't the effect that they were looking for. So no one was really that happy with it. And then in 1950, that reclining Buddha was demolished and a new one was built, the one that still exists today. And it has a much more of a gentle, peaceful, happy expression on his face. Though the reclining Buddhas do strike me as interesting because, as I said, I think they represent the final days of the Buddha on this earth. And he was 80 years old when he passed away. So an accurate representation of him in his final days in that reclining position would be the face of that of an older man, of an old man, but he's always portrayed with a very youthful and pure skin kind of face. I keep pulling over to the side of this lane, or all these lanes, because they're so narrow and cars keep running up behind me. I'd rather not have my knees buckled from behind by a fast-moving taxi if I can help it. Something to note when you go out walking in Myanmar and you think you might visit a pagoda during the day, you have to think about how you're dressed. For men, mainly your legs, because you can't wear shorts, inside a pagoda. But I do want to wear shorts as I'm walking around the city. So what I did was wear my pants that have the removable legs. So now that I'm walking around, I zipped off the pant legs, as you can see. So I'm wearing shorts, and when I get to the pagoda, I can stop and zip on the pant legs, and now I have long pants to go into the pagoda. You don't have to do that, of course. Most of these pagodas will supply a longi that you can put on, to enter the pagoda with. But I just like to bring my own pants, and then I don't have to go through the hassle of doing that. I tend to like to have things under my own control, as much as I can manage anyway, even if it comes down to my pants. And there's a piece of urban life for you. Oop, running into a cable. Look at all those apartment buildings up there. And they have all these pipes down at the bottom, pouring everything into this channel here. Probably is not the cleanest water source you're going to find on the planet. A couple of them have really worked hard to make little gardens up there, rows and rows of plants. Very jungly. And just across the street, very old wooden structure here. Still standing. I wonder how old it is. Look at those balconies. I don't think you'd want to be on those balconies. Yeah, it's pretty much abandoned up there, I think. I don't know if anybody's still using the spaces down below. A lot of spiders, though. Those spider webs look like straight out of a horror movie. Yeah, with my toes in this condition, I don't think I'm going to be walking much farther. Just going to walk up to the pagoda, which was my final destination for the day, where they have the reclining Buddha. I don't think I'll spend a lot of time there. Just go in and take a look at the reclining Buddha, absorb some of the atmosphere as the sun is going down. And from there, I imagine I'll take some kind of transportation to get back to Sule Pagoda. My poor toes aren't going to get me much farther than this. It still astonishes me, even now, that Google Maps and other mapping apps have streets like this tiny lane in the middle of nowhere on their system. So I can actually walk through these little lanes without any problem at all and know exactly where I'm going most of the time. Hello, how are you? Good. Turn left here. Good morning. Hello. Oh, poochies of the day. Got some puppies over here. Hello. Hello. A lovely little neighborhood. Hello. Oh. And a right turn here, and this should take me up to a main street. I made it to the main road. Now I just have to get across it, and I think that road ahead on the left will take me to the pagoda. Well, I think I've arrived at my destination. I don't think there's any mistaking this place. When I read about it, it said that the reclining Buddha was housed in kind of a long warehouse style building, and I think that's kind of what I'm looking at here. Oh, there it is over there with all the tourism buses. That's another sure sign that I'm in the right spot. Now I'm just going to sit down here, put on my long pants to allow me to go in. Whew. And these pants are color-coded. So if I can find the beginning of the zipper, this one has a red tab. So I need to find the red zipper, and there we are. So that one goes on this pant leg. Oh, my Band-Aids are sticking to my sandal. Whew. Not much left in those toes. They're not going to get me much further today. Ta-da! Shorts to long pants on one side. I can feel my legs protesting already. They don't want more hot material placed over top of them. They're hot enough as it is, even in shorts. And there we are, long pants, though I still have these huge gashes on both sides. I keep intending to get that repaired, but I just never got around to it. Okay. And of course I'll have to leave my sandals at the front. You're not allowed to wear footwear inside any of the pagodas. Wow. Okay, that actually took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting something quite that large. I guess when you hear the figure 66 meters long, doesn't really mean much. But when you walk inside here and see the size of it, it suddenly hits you. As I said at the beginning of the day, the original Buddha, the reclining Buddha that was here, was built in 1899. Well, started construction in 1899, completed in 1907, I think. But something went wrong in the construction or the artistic work, and the face of the Buddha ended up being somewhat stern and angry, which people didn't like. And eventually in the 50s it was torn down, it was demolished, and then this one was built in its place. And I remember reading something about those eyes, how large they are, but I forget the dimensions. Maybe I can put the figure down in the captions below. And as I mentioned earlier, my understanding is that the reclining Buddha image was created at the time when the Buddha had reached the end of his life. He was 80 years old, but the reclining Buddhas, of course, don't have the face of an 80-year-old man at the end of his life. It has the face of a very young and beautiful Buddha. And the feet of this particular reclining Buddha are quite special. I'm going to move down to the end to take a look. Here are some photographs of the original Buddha image that was here. I don't know if it comes across, but you can kind of see the face there is perhaps not as pleasing as the one on this. To me, he doesn't look that angry or stern in that image, but it was torn down and replaced with this one. And there's a kind of a close-up of the original reclining Buddha. Oh, that's a great picture. You can see how it dominated the landscape. And you can see the bullock cart bicycle on the local road there. That's a great picture. Very impressive. It's funny, my reaction to these places is always fairly predictable, in the sense that when you think about coming here, you can't help, or at least I can't help but think of it as, not that necessary to visit. It's a large reclining Buddha, another pagoda, and you think it might be just kind of a tourist attraction, and you can skip it, or it wouldn't really matter that much whether you saw it or not. And then quite often, even if I have that feeling about a place, when I show up and actually see the place in real life, I'm so impressed. And I'm always so glad that I made the effort to go there, or to go here in this case. And there are the feet of the reclining Buddha. And I don't know all of the history of this or the ins and outs, but I believe there are 108 sacred Buddhist symbols etched onto the soles of his feet. I'll move over here and get a slightly better look at it. Here's a sign about that. The distinguishing marks on the soles of the Buddha. There are 108 distinguishing marks on both the soles of the Buddha, so 108 on each. They represent the three worlds, 59 indicating the inanimate world, 21 indicating the animate world, and 28 indicating the world of the conditioned. The essence here is that the Buddha is greater than all the three worlds. These marks became apparent right from the birth of the Buddha, when 8 out of the 108 royal astrologers present were asked to comment on them. 7 presaged that the child would either become the Buddha or the universal monarch. Only Sudatta Kandama, the youngest of them, made a single prediction that the royal child was destined to become the Buddha. Because there was the image of a Kakavati on the child's soles, and a personage as superior to a Kakavati could only be a Buddha. In worshiping the 108 distinguishing marks on the soles of the Buddha, one should therefore remember to one's benefit that the Buddha is endowed with the attributes of the chief of the world, the one who has reached the end of the world and the all things worldly, the knower of the three worlds. And then there is a list of all the symbols. Number 1, large spear. Number 2, royal mansion. 3, wax flower. And on, the peacock, blue lotus, red lotus, mountains, the sun, the moon, the planets, islands. And over here, golden fish, a wheel, the novel white elephant, the golden king, the noble bull, the peacock, the crane, the ruddy goose, and number 108, the 16 Brahma realms. 93 to 108 are the 16 Brahma realms. So I think you'd have to be quite the expert in Buddhism to understand what most of this means. Before I came here, I went online and did a fair amount of reading about the life of the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, and about Buddhism in general. But to be honest, it gets very technical very fast with a lot of jargon and phrases that I'm completely unfamiliar with. And as you start reading, you quickly lose track or lose the thread of what it is you're reading, because it is so technical and complicated if you're not familiar with the terminology of Buddhism. And I was wondering whether both sides of the statue were completed, and apparently they are. And as with most, if not all, pagodas, they have a series of small Buddha images here, one for each day of the week and two for Wednesday, which is split into two parts. And depending on the day of the week that you were born, you would come here and pour water over the Buddha and gain merit from doing so. So I'm behind the reclining Buddha still. I'll show you what I'm looking at. And all down here is a long row of Buddha images. And I'm sure each one has some kind of significance. The last view of the reclining Buddha before I head outside. Just leaving from the pagoda with the reclining Buddha, and I booked a Grab. But I still get confused by Grab, as I get confused by everything, because I want it to start at my location, like pick me up where I am, which is at the pagoda, but no matter what I do, I end up with a line going to some pickup point, which is far away, and I'm not sure why I have to go there to be picked up. I want him to come to where I am. So the driver says he's there now waiting for me, but I don't really know where to go. So now I'm rushing down to the main road but no matter what I did on Grab, I couldn't get it to have my location as the pagoda. The only location I could give says main gate to the pagoda, just down by the road, but I don't know where that is. I don't know where he is. The modern world still confuses me. Still can't find my Grab. I've always had this problem with Grab. When I was in Indonesia, I used Gojek all the time, and it worked fine. Gojek said, "I'm here." Driver came there and picked me up. But Grab always sends me to some weird pickup point, and I guess I can sort of see where the driver is on this pickup point, but I really don't know where he is. I'm at the main gate where he's supposed to be. So I finally connected with my Grab driver. Turns out he was in a taxi, so I didn't recognize him, and it took him a while to recognize me, but He found me, and now we are on our way to Sule Pagoda and heading back to my guest house.